Assalamu alaikum, I'm Sahib Mustaqim Bleher. When I first published my translation of the Quran into plain English in 2018, which is now in its third edition and I think has helped a great deal to bring people in touch with the message of the Quran, I explained my motivation as follows. Today I want to talk about my translation of the Quran into plain English. But the Quran has already been translated into English, you might say. Why do it again? Language evolves, and the English of popular English Quran translations, like Pickthall and Yusuf Ali, can be difficult to understand for today's reader. There is no perfect Quran translation. Whereas the Quran as originally revealed in Arabic is perfect and remains so for all time, a translation will inevitably have numerous shortcomings due to the limited ability of the translator to fully comprehend the word of Allah. Yet translations are essential to enable those who do not speak Arabic to access the Quran and follow its guidance. Imagine setting your sat-nav to voice instructions in a foreign language and then trying to follow it to an unknown destination. A good translation is one which does not lose sight of the language spoken and understood by its intended target audience. When working with prisoners and young offenders, I found that many of them struggled with the way English was used in the Quran translations they had available, and to which they wanted to turn in order to change their lives. In providing my translation, I wanted to remove those linguistic barriers so that ordinary people without an academic education could understand the text. Not a translation for scholars, but for everyone. This does not mean at all that the content of the Quran would be reduced or diluted. It merely means choosing equivalent words and phrases from the English language as spoken today, not the English of Shakespeare or perhaps the Bible. Many translators in the past felt that because the Quran is an elevated and important text full of knowledge and wisdom, it had to be translated into a style of language borrowed from other high literature in order to be recognized as quality writing. I don't share this view. Allah Himself declares that the Quran was revealed in plain Arabic. And it is evident that in spite of the depths of knowledge it contains, and which only opens up to those who are knowledgeable, one does not have to be a scholar in order to read and be inspired by the Quran in Arabic. Ordinary, even illiterate people at the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ rightly perceived that the Quran spoke to them rather than talked above their heads. In my translation of the Quran into plain English, I am hoping to achieve the same. I want the translation to speak to people's hearts and minds, whether they are university educated and well versed in literature or not, so that they can apply the wisdom found in its pages in their lives without having to turn to a dictionary with every page they turn. I pray that this translation will make the divine message more accessible to English readers, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, and allow them to benefit from the guidance it has to offer. And all success comes from Allah. When I first set out translating the Quran in 2005, there wasn't really anything that met the objective I had set out to meet. I had previously simplified the translations by Muhammad Pickthall and Yusuf Ali, which were very popular in the UK at the time. But there isn't that much you can do with somebody else's translation. When we first published the translation in 2018, the situation wasn't very different yet, but I later found that many other people had set out on the same journey of producing a more readable translation of the Quran in the UK and also in parallel in North America. And there are some very good new translations, and that is a positive sign because it means we keep the message of the Quran alive for future generations of people, of Muslims, of our children, our grandchildren, who speak English and do not speak Arabic. Of course, nothing can ever compare with the Quran in Arabic. I have recently been made aware of the International Quranic Research Association, IQRA, and they have taken the initiative, which I think is excellent, of linking up, of reaching out to all those who have translated the Quran into English in order to have a first conference of such translators. And of course, there are many translations. Not all of them are there to make the Quran accessible. I have found through this some very interesting work, like a Quran that for every ayat gives you biblical references that relate to that ayah, or a Quran that highlights the variation of reading in the Quran. There are different readings of the Quran, there are variations, and it highlights those. So there are many different approaches of what specific aspect of the Quran, because the Quran is multifaceted, somebody would want to address and highlight and give people who do not speak Arabic access to. And I think that's an excellent way of showcasing the richness of the Quran. And I'm really looking forward to that conference and what may come out of it, of future endeavors to keep the Quran alive amongst our midst of non-Arabic speaking, English speaking Muslims. Assalamu alaikum.